Hello, so today I'm going to show you how to make sourdough starter and sourdough bread. So let's start at the beginning with the starter. So what you need, the normal way to make a starter and to maintain a starter is to use 50 grams of flour and 50 grams or 50 mils of water. So I'm going to start with my flour. So 50 grams in my dish here. And then add 50 of water. There we go. And then you just give it a mix to get the flour and water all mixed together. Now I normally use rye flour for this. And actually, looking at this, it looks a bit thick for creating a starter. Because if you have it in a warm kitchen, the risk is that it dries out and it just doesn't get the chance to ferment. So I think what I'm going to do is just pop in a wee bit more water to make it a little bit more runny. And that will allow the yeast to really get active in there. And that looks just about right, so it's like a kind of thick, gloopy porridge. There we go. So I just wanted to show you the difference between a well-prepared starter, which is my old starter Sally, who's been in the fridge overnight, was fed yesterday and is bubbling away very happily. And then the other starter that I began yesterday, even after just one day, there are lots of small bubbles beginning to appear. So it's beginning to develop some yeast, and by tomorrow I expect to see it bubbling away nicely. And certainly by the day after it'll be ready to use. So now I'm going to make sourdough bread, and this is my sourdough starter that's been going for about years. I don't know how many years. I call her Sally. And she gets fed about once a week and kept in the fridge, and it's a mix of 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water that I add. When I want to make more bread, I can bulk up the starter, or I can use it, or I can throw it away. So for this sourdough, I'm going to use 50 grams of starter. So I'll measure that into my dish. Oh, that's it. And I need to add to that 400 grams of water, but so I'll just zero this again. And then start to add the water there. I add it a bit at a time because otherwise it's hard to mix it. Especially with rye flour, which is a lot stickier than this. This is quite a light, thin starter. With flour dough it was a lot, with rye flour it was a lot thicker. So now I've done that mix, and I need to remember that I didn't have the spoon in when I first did the measure, and I can just now top that up to 400 mils. That's it. And 400 mils, 400 grams is the same thing. There we go, so that's ready. Now I start to add the flour. Now you can make plain white bread, or you can make bread with wholemeal flour or rye flour, anything you like. I like to use Malthouse, which I get from Real Foods in Broughton Street, but the one at Tollcross doesn't do it. If you can get it anywhere else, that would be good. And the total is 580 grams, and I just fling in what I like. So here we go, I'll just zero this again. I need to get to 580, so quite a lot of white flour, maybe about half and half. So 250, 300 grams of white flour. And this is the Malthouse flour, which gives the bread a lovely nutty taste, so I do like to use that. And it's healthier as well than just plain flour. So now I have my 580 grams of flour added to the 400 of water, and I forgot to say that this plain, the white flour needs to be strong bread flour to make a really good loaf. So it's now just a case of mixing the flour and the water until you get a kind of thick goo. It's a kind of rough dough at this stage, but that's fine, because you're going to mix it further as you do the stretching and folding, which is the way that sourdough bread's made rather than kneading it. It's a different technique. So I'll just continue with this for a bit. So I've been mixing this for a bit, and you can see that it's kind of rough and sticky, and most of the flour's incorporated. Make sure you get the flour off the bottom and get it well mixed in. So that's ready just to sit now. So that sits for 30 minutes. It's got no salt or anything else added, but I'll just leave it for 30 minutes for the flour to incorporate some of the water. So half an hour's gone by, and the mix is beginning to look stringier. The gluten strands are beginning to form already. So this is the next bit where you get your hands in. But first of all, I'm going to add some salt. Now I've got different scales because I need to measure accurately, and I like to use low sodium salt. Good advert for Tesco there. This isn't the BBC. So let me just check my amounts. 13 grams of salt. I should know this, I've been doing it for so many years, but never mind. So you just sprinkle the salt over the top of the mix, the dough. And I'm also going to add, I like to add some sunflower seeds. Just give a couple of handfuls of sunflower seeds. And some pumpkin seeds, because it gives it a nice flavour and it makes it nice and healthy. And I happen to have some linseeds, so I'll just put a wee drop of those in there. But you can use anything you like. Right, now here's where it gets messy. So first of all, I'm going to just remove all this dough off the spoon, and then you get your hands nice and wet because it stops the dough from sticking, and you just get in and you grab the dough, pull it and push it together, and you're trying to get the salt mixed in, the seeds mixed in, and that's why they call it pull and stretch. So you just pull the dough, fold it and stretch it like that, and eventually it comes to the stage where it will hardly budge because it's got so much tension in it from the gluten fibres. So that's about as much as I can do at this stage, and you can see there's hardly any sticking to my fingers because they've been wet. So I just leave it like that for another 30 minutes, and we'll come back and see where it's got to next. So the dough's now been resting for 30 minutes, and this is how it looks now since we added the seeds and the salt. And by the way, some people like to use sea salt because they think it gives a better flavour. For me, I just want it to be healthy. I know what's in it, so I want to use as little sodium as I can. So the kneading you're going to do now is the same kneading you'll do every time, or sorry, I should say the stretching and folding you'll do now is the same as every time. Now the minimum number of stages you need to do, or stretches you need to do, is 4, with 30 minutes between each one. But you can extend that for as long as you like. You can extend the time between stretches, you can extend it over to the next day, and quite often I do because it gives a nice open texture to the loaf. So I'll knead and stretch it, pop a cover over it, and I'm lucky to have a plastic cover for this bowl, and pop it in the fridge and then come back to it the next day. So you can do that. So it's not time consuming insofar as you have to be there all the time. You make it suit your timetable. So here we go again. Wet my hand so it doesn't stick. Grab the dough, pull it and fold it. Pull it, stretch, and that's what causes the gluten fibres to develop. Pull and stretch, fold over, keep working your way around, pull and stretch, and you can see the texture is beginning to develop in the gluten fibres are beginning to develop even more. When it begins to lift out the bowl, that's enough stretching. It won't really stretch anymore, so you just, you know, that's it ready to leave for your next 30 minutes. So I didn't get round to making the bread yesterday. I wasn't in a rush for it, so I just popped the lid on and put it in the fridge. You can use cling film, which might be easier to remove than this lid, and you can see how well the dough has risen. It's lovely and light, and you can see all the bubbles that have appeared through the dough. This makes a really nice light open bread. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shape it into a loaf. First of all, I'll shape it into a loaf with some white flour on the top here. And then I need to get the dough out of the dish, which is without it sticking all over my fingers. So just get some flour on them. There we go. And the bowl's just about clean. And there's my lovely big lump of dough ready to make my bread. Just put a wee bit more flour on there so it's less sticky. And what I want to do now is, first of all, I'm just going to do a final set of folds, and it looks as if I'm knocking all the air out, but in fact I'm not really, because I'm going to give it one more rise. And then what I'm doing here is to shape the bread and form a skin on the top. So I just tuck the edges of the dough underneath, and it gradually forms a nice rounded shape, and you can actually see some of the bubbles beginning to come to the surface. So there we go, a nice round ball of dough ready to make my loaf. And what I use next is a proving basket. I bought this from a really great place called Bakery Bits, but you can actually buy them online. It has a liner, which makes it much easier to get the bread out of the liner. You can do it without the liner, but I find it tends to stick. So, and to avoid it sticking to the liner, what I'm going to do is just sprinkle the liner with some wholemeal flour. I usually use rye, but I can't get any at the moment, so I'm just using some wholemeal. And then just pop the bread in there, and I'm going to leave it somewhere warm again until it rises and it's ready to bake. So the dough's been left to rise for about actually 5 hours, because I've been busy doing stuff, so I've just left it. And actually I left it on a nice warm floor, which gives it some underfloor heating, and it's risen quite nicely, and you can see that it's got a lot of spring in the dough. So the next thing I'm going to do is pop it in the oven, and I have in here a baker's cloche, but if you don't have one of these, you could use a casserole dish with a lid. If you have an oval casserole dish, you can buy these proving baskets in an oval shape. So you can improvise, you don't have to have this. I just like the cloche because it looks nice in the kitchen. I got it from Bakery Bits. You may be able to buy them from Amazon. I don't know, I've not looked, but they're certainly readily available. And here's this skill. To tip it out, I'm going to give it a little slash on the top just to allow it to open, and then pop the top of the cloche back on, and then in it goes. The oven's been pre-warmed to as hot as it will go, which is about 225 degrees C in this oven, and it will cook now for an hour, and that will be it ready. Well, that's the bread been baking for an hour, so, and the timer's just gone off, so I'm going to take it out of the oven and see how it looks. There we go. And there we are. It's nice. I'll just take this up here actually, and you can hear it makes a nice hollow sound when you tap on it. And that tells you it's nicely cooked. So there we go, sourdough bread, dead simple. And the thing is, you do it to your timetable. You can knead it, you can stretch it when you want, you can bake it when you want, you can leave it in the fridge, just do anything you want. It's to your timetable, not the bread's timetable, not the dough. So there you go, simple.